Okay, so welcome to today's Travolution webcast. Delighted today that we've got Marco Corradino, who is the Chief Operating Officer at lastminute.com. Lastminute.com, obviously a huge European travel brand, but also iconic British brand.
Absolutely. Our group is called Airline Group, and lastminute.com is our flagship brand. Then in the other countries, I don't know, in Italy, Spain, and Germany, we have also other brands.
Yes.
Like Vegdi, Vola Gratis, Rumbo, and whatever. Then we have meta search business with other brands. So we have a lot of websites, but for sure, lastminute.com is the most important.
You do. Well, thanks for joining us today. I think you're based there in Switzerland, so
yes,
beaming in.
We are in Switzerland, and the headquarters in Switzerland, and working from home in Switzerland. So yeah. I'm here.
Okay.
The weather is similar to in UK today, so no
it's
problem.
Good to see you, and hope things are well there. Let's start by going through the impact on Last Minute. I had actually your managing director Andrea on a it's not a similar call, on a panel, and he set out the incredible impact that COVID had over a very short period of time at the beginning of March, when suddenly all sales stopped and you had to go into some sort of reverse pattern. So, you know, as a big company, it's devastating, I'm sure. What just gives us an idea of the impact that you saw?
We went down in terms of bookings. That it's more important, 95%. So almost very close to zero at a certain moment. And I could say the first week of April has been the worst period, I have to say. But also the other part of the business that we have, like media, because we sell a lot of media, we are a publisher, we sell a lot of media, and also chat cost, the team meta search operation went down. Yeah. And I could say it's been very tough because it's been very quick. And also you have to put all together all the stuff, because the 18th of February, we were a party at the London Eye for the inauguration on the London Eye. Yes. And 1 month, after 18th of March, all the airlines in Europe and all around the world has been grounded. Yeah. So it's been in 4 weeks, we experienced something extraordinary. And more than that, like any other company, we have our own internal company. So we have to move to close our offices, working remotely. Also do customer care remotely with an unbelievable amount of request of refunds, request of clarification, because people didn't know what they have to do. And we have to manage that from, let's say, basically working from home all around Europe. I remember, for example, a night in which our Indian outsourcer immediately, suddenly, closed the operation, and they weren't able to have, let's say, remote working, because we were lucky because we have a remote working policy in place since 2 years. So basically people could work from home, so we have a policy. But for example, this outsourcer didn't have. Yeah. And so we lost 500 people in terms of capacity to our customer care center in 1 hour. And for sure, the customer has not been happy. My people was frustrated about the situation externally, because the customer was frustrating. We didn't receive any support from, let's say, the airline or our other operator, because they were in our same situation and the business started to going down. So it's been very, let's say, emotionally and psychological, it's been very, very tough. Yeah. I have to be honest, I have a lot of people in the company that they suffer a lot. To some people, I say simply, okay, stay away, because we will manage. So there was people that was very good in managing the situation, because they feel like a fight. So, but other people that was completely overwhelmed about the situation, and it's very good people, but simply overwhelmed. They weren't able to work. So it's been very, very tough, I have to say. Yeah.
So it's really complicated for something like your group, because you are split over various different countries and jurisdictions.
Yes. We have 46 different nationalities. In
the company, but also these offices as well. So you've got your Indian outsourcer, you've got lots of people based around Europe as well.
Yes, we have Madrid, Barcelona, Paris, Berlin, Munich, Milan, Chiasso, London, Bangalore, and then some other people around the world, in US, in Dubai. So Yes,
how many people in total then are reliant on last minute?
In total is 1,200 more or less on average, and then we have outsourcing for another 1,000 people. And now what we did, we didn't do any big layoff. We just insource activities. So we close outsourced activities also for this kind of reason, and we change some, let's say, department inside the organization in order to manage this kind of activities. So we convert some work inside the organization in order to support this kind of stuff. So it's been a huge collective effort, but also we were lucky because we are European based, also in Switzerland, in East Europe, so we have a furlough law in any countries, with different rule, very complicated, in some country with trade unions, in some country without. So it's been a huge work by our HR department, but we have a lot of relief from the national government scheme in order of HR costs. And so we apply for furlough more or less everywhere. Obviously in India, we didn't have, but we did something different. And then on the other side, we have been lucky also because in Switzerland, the Swiss government, they gave us immediately money that we didn't use, but at that moment for us has been a comfort because they released immediately 20 million Swiss francs in a week. They has been very, very quick in doing that, better than any other, let's say, European country. Also the furlough scheme in Switzerland worked amazingly because in a week, basically you send an email and they gave money to your employees. So that helped a lot. I could say that from that standpoint, I felt to be safe, but psychologically also for the people has been very tough also because you were not there. So I had to talk with you and to other 1,000 people in front of a computer and say, okay, look guys, we can do it, but I can't, the feeling, the power that you have when you speak to someone face to face, you don't have in front of a computer. So it's been very complicated.
So you didn't do any layoffs, but you have furloughed a lot of people.
No.
So
normal layoff, I could say like people that leave the company or something, but not, we didn't apply the American approach to that.
No. So about how many people were you down because of furlough then? How many people did you have to
I could say in terms of work time, we are down 50%.
50. And that's still the case today, or are you bringing people back?
Yes. We are changing more or less. Overall, we will be still in 50%, but different departments. So for example, because we saw now that the booking is rising up, particularly in the last 2 weeks, we moved from 0 to, we are now 60% versus last year. So there's been rapidly growth. And so we need people in customer care and support. For sure, we don't need people in branding or, let's say, office support and whatever. So we change we have some people that are 100% off up to September because we don't need in this moment. And then other people that are, they work full time. It's really, we arrange now that we have some time, this kind of stuff from the 1st of July.
Okay. And in terms of that financing that you mentioned from the Swiss government, was that the only financing you've had to bring into the company? Does that add debt to the company? Or
no, it's a debt. Then the condition is not clear because the government will clarify. They say that basically is 1 year is without interest and then they have to decide, but they did immediately. No, we did a round of financing using our, let's say, relation with 2 banks, Banca Intesa, that is an Italian bank, and Corner Bank, that is a Swiss bank, that our historical bank. We were able to raise another 30 million of debt to be safe, and we are continuing to exploring the possibility to have some money from local government. No, so because for example in Spain, due the organization that we have there, we have the ability to raise some fund from the government fund, and we are exploring that. We are doing the same in France and in Germany and in Italy. So I don't know if we have the possibility and the conditions are good, why not? I think that could be the case. Yeah. Then on the other side, on the financial, we also took the opportunity to be prepared in order to have a capital increase. We didn't decide to do that, but due to the fact that to do a capital increase, you need time, we anticipated this kind of decision in the last board of directors. In case we need money, we want to be prepared in order to do a capital increase. Now we are in good shape, and so we have to decide what to do. But this was what we have done at, let's say, finance, let's say, corporate level.
Yeah, but actually, you were lucky, I guess, in some ways that you had come into this on the back of 2 very good years.
Yes,
so you were probably in a better position to ride this out.
Financially, yes. Financially, yes. Then psychologically, has been, I think, very tough. Because for me, it means, and for a group of people, because this company has a long history, and that we found this company from a very was a startup at the beginning, but a real startup, bootstrapping, so without venture fund and whatever. So we normally, I remember still when I used to manage more than the profit and loss or the EBITDA, the cash, approving all the payments in order to arrive at the end of the month, approving the salary. And I did it again. So for me, it was like going back 20 years, because every day I have to manage, let's say, the cash flow of the company for the entire company, from to buy the computer to the other. For some other people, they were used to, I don't know, big contract and whatever, that has been tough. So people didn't understand, because someone also that we hired from big corporation, they are not used to this kind of stuff, and they were very worried, because they say, okay, look, if the CEO has to approve the invoice for paying a supplier of for £5,000, probably the situation is worse than I'm thinking. Yeah. And that again has been a challenge.
Mm. So yeah, so as people have said, the entire industry has gone into a startup mode. So actually, you reflect that on what you just said. You
absolutely, totally agree. Totally agree.
Let's move on to the thing that you set out a press release last week about the big issue that's been really dominant up until now. I think it's starting to sort of maybe become easier, but the refunds issue has been the dominant thing that we've been dealing with and hearing about in the UK and beyond, because it's obviously been the big thing initially.
Yes.
As we now start to look forward, maybe we can get beyond this, but actually refunds has been the big problem. And you had some fairly strong words to say about how some of the airlines operated. I know not all airlines, a lot of airlines have done different things, quite good, but on the whole, you know, they're in difficult situations. So we understand that, but they have been, you know, singled out as being the big blocker to getting this money back into customers' hands. And at the other end, the customers are sitting there, frustrated, getting increasingly angry, and they're angry with you, because at the end of the day, they're the people who
we are in the middle.
Yeah. So I'm sure as a businessman, you understand where the airlines were with this, but you know, what has it shown you about how the industry works and operates that simply can't happen again and can't be allowed to continue again?
I think first I have to say that let's say in this moment, say airlines, it's a little bit unfair, because not all the airlines behave in the same way. Because at the very beginning, the main issue also for the airline was that, for example, for us, was to file for a refund, because we didn't have anyone on the other side. And then after this period, there was a group of airlines, particularly, for example, US, American Airlines, they got the money from the government and they started to refund. In UK, due to also cultural facts, because the consumer have, let's say, different habits, the airlines are, let's say, they risk their reputation. So I saw that, for example, EasyJet and British Airways, they started to refund. With delay, but they started to refund. So not all the airlines behave in the same way, where there are airlines that in the reality still now are at the limit, because I refer to big group like Lufthansa Group, Air France, and for example, Ryanair, Iberia, and Alitalia.
Yeah.
And in this group, this company have got a lot of money from the government. European Union say the taxpayer has to pay for the airline industry, and the taxpayer has to pay for the debt and to refund, to bail out the airline, but the airline has to give back the money to the consumer. And this is not happening. This for me is unacceptable, not only for my company and the reputation of my company, but also for the consumer. Because if you hurt the consumer, they don't have the money to book again.
Yeah.
And this is why I think this is a very sad situation, because it shows like the government around Europe, when the crisis arrived, they say at the end it became a power relationship or law of the jungle. Everyone closed the border because they think they could stop the virus. So European Union, Schengen vanished in a week because they started to close the border. I remember I was in UK, the 17th of February, they were calling the virus the Italian disease. I still remember exactly. Then the Italian disease became the Spanish disease, then the French disease, and then became a European disease. But the answer, the political answer to that has been closing the border, that it doesn't make any sense. On the other side, I have to say in the airline industry, it's the same. What I really see is the death of IATA, because that is basically IATA, that the work that they have done in the last 3 years is to become an agent of changing, a system that could balance the power between airlines or air travel agents and to create a different kind of, let's say, world in which we can work together immediately, suddenly, that because they didn't do anything and they continue to don't do anything. They continue to say technical stuff like, I have no evidence of what you say, Marco, that the company is not refunding. But why they don't have evidence? Because, for example, there are airlines that don't allow you to file for a refund.
Yeah.
For example, some tactics that I could say, very big company, European big airlines, they say, okay, the only way to do a refund, you have to call me. And then every time that you call, you have to file just one case. And we have, I don't know, 20,000 customers. And they put one person to answer. So technically, yes, the refund process is in place. So IATA is happy about this kind of process. But practically, this was a delaying tactics. So, and when I say that to the member of IATA, they say, Marco, as a man, I could understand you. But as an organization, for me, everything is perfect. So for me, this is like Soviet Union, no? So, well, we have a tribunal that say, okay, this is the law, this is the paradise, and the people go away from the Soviet Union because they want to live. And we are in the same, it's like, no? Some animals, all the animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than the others. And we experience also this kind of situation in politics and in my industry, and this is very sad, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard, obviously, a lot of airlines took themselves off the GDS refund system, so there was no automated system to go through.
Absolutely. But I mean, say in this moment, say the airlines, I think, unfair.
Yeah.
There are a clear group of problematic children in the group. And that, for example, I give you an example, no? Because my conversation with IATA was last Friday. I say, look, guys, but why you think that, for example, for 8th of April, British Airways are refunding all the flights for the 8th of April and Lufthansa no? You know that the Lufthansa flight was, the Lufthansa airplane was in the sky the 8th of April or not? Because for what I know, 95% of the flight was grounded in Europe the 8th of April. You know that because you continue to produce a press release about modeling, forecast data and whatever, but you don't know what's happening inside your organization the 8th of April. And they say, I don't know what are you talking about, Marco. This is what they say. And this is, I think, it's very, very sad. I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, IATA is an airline body, so they're there to protect their members, aren't they?
I know. In the reality, no, because they have in the association the fact that they have also to protect the airline, the online travel agent from a possible bankruptcy of airlines. So they have, if you read the article of association, they have to maintain the system in balance, and they are failed. But the arbiter, the Swedish arbiter, also clearly state that in a declaration in a case that they have. But simply the body is not doing anything. It's like, I don't know, the European Commissioner that say, for us, the European rule are still active. So the European rules say that an airline has to refund in 8 days.
Yeah.
8 days. So we are waiting refund from 3 months, but the European Union say, no, okay, for us, the rule of the 8 days, it's correct. But they are politicians. I can expect that. But these are people that we work every day all together, because we offer everything to the airline. We say, okay, now we are selling. Why don't we compensate the debt? Because now I have credit and the debt. And they are simply not exploring that kind of possibility. It's really, really sad.
Do you think one of the, yes, like you said, some of these airlines are getting government money or taxpayers' money to keep them going? Should there be one of the conditions of that should be they use that to get the refunds out quickly?
I hope so.
That's not happening quickly enough. Obviously, it's still a problem.
Still a problem. But for example, I don't know, EasyJet, British Airways, they are doing that. I hope also the other airline will follow. I think that in June this situation will be ended, because the pressure will be too much.
Yeah. How is this going to evolve then after this? I mean, once we're out of this period of crisis and people, looking after their own at the moment to survive, do you think this might change something in that relationship between airline and agent and IATA and their role in all this? I mean, a lot of airlines look at Ryanair. Ryanair have had very love-hate relationship, mainly hate, with agents. They've taken a lot of calls over the years, but they do rely on them for so many bookings at the end of the day. Yeah. If all agents turn them off overnight, they'd feel it, yeah? So, but do you think this might end up changing that relationship a bit more? Do you think there's going to be sort of a bit of an appreciation? There is an ecosystem here.
Well, I think Ryanair ate everyone, but I think Michael O'Leary was right, because if you think, again, and then I don't want to talk anymore about the airlines, but if you think Thomas Cook has to survive 3 months after, and the government will bail out Thomas Cook as well. Yeah. So basically, the only reason to receive the money in March from the government is to be there. Not good company, bad company, or whatever. The government say, okay, I give you the money, no? And that for Ryanair, that is a very good company, very efficient, see that some competitors that in a couple of months, they will go out of the market because they weren't enough good to compete, and they receive the money and they become as competitor for them. They felt it is unfair, and that is not completely untrue. I clearly understand, no? Say, right, look, for example, the case of Alitalia, no? Was the company that was technically failed since, I don't know, probably the Italian government, I remember 30 years ago, they started to talk about that. And Ryanair say, why I have to compete with this company? So I think they are right in that kind of regard. But to be honest with you, I don't think there will be a change or a switch in the relation in the immediate future, because everyone has a need to recover money, bookings as soon as they can in order to have, let's say, a positive cash flow. So I think next 18 months, we will try to forget all this stuff, and we will continue to sell. We will continue to maintain relation. I don't think that Ryanair will say no, now peace and love with everyone, but I think they will focus much more on their operation, and they accept some level of, let's say, exceptional distribution channel like they experienced in the past. This is what I see for the next, let's say, 18 months. Yeah. In long term, in any way, in the strategic part, I think in the reality that the crisis that we experience will have an effect. And when talking strategically, company will start to think, what if? Also, I think a side effect could be there will be less money in the industry, not from consumer, but from, let's say, financial investors, player. Yep. Private equity players, because now they experience the risk. Then the finance industry, normally they forget. They take 3-4 years to forget. If you remember, 2008 was the banks. Now it's been the airlines. Probably in 4 years, other private equity fund will continue to invest. But yeah. I see that this will change this industry, and that the competitive dynamics, that the effect of this in the next three years is very difficult to forecast. This is personally what I see. So synthesize, not a lot in the next 2 years, but in long term, this will probably change, concentrate much more the industry. There will be probably a few players in the industry, and the money will go more to the player that bigger enough or strong enough to survive than try to create, let's say, an ecosystem with different challengers.
Yeah, I suppose what one force for change could be those governments that have been forced to bail out companies won't want to do that again. So that could lead to regulatory change, because they'll say, look, this no longer can be we can't bail you out on taxpayers' money just because you know this happens. It may be unforeseen, but it's happened. So actually changed our view. So in the past it's always been, oh, we're too big to fail. It's the usual story, and there's no regulation. But maybe we'll see regulatory change, which could change things.
It's difficult to change because travel industry it's big, particularly in Europe as a destination all around Europe, and to have tourists you need to have an airline. So in a certain sense, it's a vital system. So it's very different. It's very difficult to regulate that kind of stuff. I agree. If to be honest, I don't have a solution for that. What I say is personally that there are a lot of laws and regulation about that. For me, it's enough if they apply what is in place, like that an airline should refund in 8 days. That for me, it's enough. Also for my consumer, I think. Yeah. But for example, if you look at the capacity, I was looking at this interesting statistic this morning, is the declaration of the capacity that will put in place the airline in the next quarter. So June, July, and August. July, August, and September. Yeah. And there is no one more than 50%. So Wizz Air declared 60% capacity, Ryanair 50, EAG 45, EasyJet 30%. So it means that now the airline will go out of the hangar. As soon as they go out of the hangars, the airlines will have an immediate cost, because right now they don't pay for the kind of stuff. Yeah. But they don't risk a lot, because so it means that we can forecast a 50% versus last year, let's say, capacity versus last year. And so this to me means that maybe the market by the end of the year will reach 50% versus last year.
And so let's get on to how the market looks. I mean, you said you're seeing some bookings coming in now, and actually, what did you say? What are you now compared to?
I compare versus last year. We are minus 60 this week.
Minus 60. That's a better position than a few weeks ago, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We are happy now.
And where's that demand coming from? Where are you seeing the interest in actual bookings?
Flights, mainly flights, because we focus a lot on dynamic package vacation and on the OTA side. That is our, let's say, specialty. But flight for us, it's important in terms of volume. So mainly flights. I have to say now, our business in the OTA is 80% flights. All around Europe.
Within Europe or longer haul?
Within Europe, because we see mainly domestic, so intra-Europe, long haul is practically dead. Yeah. So if you look at the statistic that I have, that within US and within Europe, now the capacity within US is 30%, within Europe is 18%, within China is 99%, but for example, Europe intercontinental is just 8% capacity versus last year, so nothing. So we are saying, the difference is that, this is interesting, we have, in every country, we have, when a country go out of the lockdown, we immediately see searching and booking. So search is now, the global search, I don't know if you know that, but the global search for air travel all around the world are more than the research on COVID-19. So for the first time, so people are looking for flights more than information. This is a positive all around the world. This is a Google stats. But I mean, for all the countries, so going up, a part of UK with the stuff of the quarantine, we saw the number of searches like in the other countries, similar like Germany, but the number of bookings that are really, really low because the people don't know what to do. Yeah. So this quarantine situation in UK has impacted the business, not only for Brits that want to go outside, but also for people that want to visit UK. So London is a big destination.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we started, and the importance. There's talk of air bridges, there's talk of this quarantine that comes in today being limited. Maybe it's going to be looked at again in 3 weeks' time. Politically, I think everyone expects there to be something put in place so that travel can happen between certain destinations. And obviously, without that, I think everyone believes that summer just won't happen for UK outbound. And like equally, what about inbound UK? There's so much pressure there to get London and large visitor destinations going again.
That is, if you ask me how to return to normality, the clear legislation, clear rule, clear regulation about where you can travel and when and whatever, that could be this sort of air bubble or air corridor, how they call it, or the quarantine period, but we need to have an homogeneous situation. And the last part, the second part that is very important, that nobody talk about that, is about what will happen on the plane. Because in this moment, there are no clear rules. So you know that we talked a lot about that you have to leave one seat empty, then, I don't know, just 3 people in a row and whatever. That again, because now all the ticket that has been sold by the airline, it's like a sort of Fanta tickets, because the airplane are in the hangar. Now they have to put people in the planes. I think there will be possible another, let's say, to be polite, some issues, because I think airline will change the schedule a lot. Because now they are selling, then they will decide which flight could operate. And again, for customer care, that will become a challenge. But more than that, the government has to say clearly how much of the capacity they should have. And again, this is complicated because nobody knows what to do. So this new stuff will help the industry a lot.
Yeah, and is the industry, it has to be careful. It's in a dangerous moment potentially because clearly this virus was spread by air travel, in the initial phase. And the last thing it wants to do is to look like it's putting profit and, business before people's health. I mean, that's obvious. No one wants to be accused of that. Do you worry that there's a bit of danger of that at the moment? There's a lot of calls to get the industry back going again. There's a lot of calls to get the economy going again in all countries. And that's understandable.
But
I mean, the industry has to be careful how much it sort of just demands things happen quickly.
Very careful. And but the people is, as always, consumer, the people are anticipated this kind of trend. Because if you look at what is happening, people are booking domestic travel much more than before. So they will stay, let's say, close to home, the majority of the people. This summer will be I think, but I see some data. People are looking for something very close by because they want to stay with the possibility to go back. Probably, I saw something that there is, that it's interesting. It's the percentage of people that are think it's a barometer, is a sort of survey at the world level. The people that want to travel after this coronavirus, after the lockdown. And the percentage of people that is around 13-15% of the panel, they say, yes, this is the most important thing. And it is very similar all around Europe. So Germany, UK, France, Spain, Italy, more or less 13-14%. But then when they ask where you go, locally, so domestic or international, France, Spain, and Italy, 37% will remain within their nationalities, where Germany and UK want to go outbound. So there is also a different perception, but this, I think, will be a trend.
Yeah, and as we were discussing before we came on, actually, there's a very big difference between when the Germans and the Brits book. We've had amazing weather in the UK, which actually makes people start to think, I don't want to go too far away. I could holiday in the UK. And we always look for the cloudy skies, especially at the weekend, to boost bookings for outbound. And you say it's the same in Germany, but the opposite is true in the southern countries.
In the south,
they wait for the sun to come out and then book. So it's an interesting
Yeah, you know that there is this story of there was a group, there was a plane from a city in Germany. I don't remember. I think Berlin or Munich. They want to go to the Balearic Island, and in reality they arrive in Olbia in Sardinia because the airplane we don't know why, arrive in Olbia in Sardinia. Say they were so eager to go in the south in the Balearic, then they arrive in Sardinia. It's happened a couple of weeks ago. Yes, it's true. You have to think also that, again, this is really correlated with what happens in the city. Because if London is open for business, I think it's a great destination also for vacation in the summer. Yeah. Or if Berlin is open for business, but for sure, the things that you can do in London are culture, or I don't know, fun, or music, or festival, and whatever. So people, but if the disco are closed, the festival are closed, there is no music and whatever, probably the people want to go outside, to go in the nature. And this is for UK, for Germany, for Northern Europe. So this is, I think, is also something that we have to take in mind, because people want to do something after 3 months at home. If they have money, they want to do something. So
yeah. Well, look, we've talked about a lot, really, especially around the issue around refunds, etc. So let's just finish with a few thoughts on what you think is going to come up. You mentioned before, and I think everyone's been saying, look, we're probably looking at a smaller travel industry for the foreseeable future. It's not going to get back to pre-COVID levels for a number of years, and it could be quite a few years, and we don't know what the impact of what is clearly going to be a recession, and that's clearly going to hurt people's pockets, and it's going to mean they've got disposable income isn't going to be as high. So travel is going to take its share of that. But what's your best guess for how things will start to get back to some sort of normality? I guess that's assuming there isn't a return in the actual virus, and then eventually there will be a vaccine, we hope. But what are you best?
I totally agree with you. Let's put aside the virus issue, because if there could be waves of pandemic or whatever, we don't know. So that is very difficult to forecast. The virus is like weather forecast. It's not science. So the weather forecast is very good in 3 days, but in 15 days you guess. But I mean, what could happen? I think our plan, let's say, is to go back to the level of 2019 will take 3 years, I think. Okay. This is why, because this year, if we will go 50%, I think would be good. Yep. Then in October, November, we will see the economic effect of the crisis, because now you have furlough scheme, you have money from the government and whatever. So, but in October and November, we will understand. And so probably people in 2021 will have some problem also, so less people will travel. So that will be a recovery year. And after that, we will see something more. This is why I think that 3 years could be a fair, let's say, estimation. A lot of people in the industry say 5 years, a lot, particularly in US, probably because if you look at the hotel industry, they will say 7 years, because now they are at the moment. So I think 3-5 years. That if you look at the arrival, for example, in 4 months, the arrival went down to the level of 2012 in number of people arriving. So the industry is back to 2012. So that is the issue. And then there will be, I think, will happen that the shift from offline to online will improve. And this is why the online presence will become much, much more important. It is like the school. Now, this 2 months of lockdown has done to the school all around Europe in terms of digitalization, like, 4 or 5 years. Because in a week, you have to digitalize completely your program. And this is something that will continue. So I saw this new trend. 3 years with a clear shift on the digital market.
And just final thought on the future of sort of mass travel in some ways? It means people saying this might be the end of a great period, really, 20 odd years of mass travel, cheap mass travel. People have got less money and companies are more restrained on their finances. They're going to have to put prices up. So do you see it being that way, or can we get back to something like it?
I think that, and this is where we are, I think we have to improve in this regard. I think there will be a raise in the eco-conscious travel. So ecology or sustainability will become something real in the industry. We are not particularly good in that. We underestimate that in the past because we did. Probably this is a trend that we need to take in consideration. So more than, let's say, mass, difference in the price, so cheap vacation and that kind of stuff. This is a trend that now I see. Also because if it's difficult to go to very mass destination, you want to experience, let's say something different. On the other side, I think another big impact will be on the travel company will have to enter much more in the financial industry in order to help people the possibility to book. Otherwise, you will have a market that will be divided with the people that could buy and the people that have to, let's say, borrow money just to go on vacation. So that is another. So, but if you ask me, what I see is this, let's say, sort of sustainability is something that will become clear in the industry, also because the bailout of the airline is in some way connected to this kind of stuff. So this is a trend, let's say, that I see. On the positive side, if I have to be positive, but let's say sustainability is a positive stuff. Okay, I think we are late on that, but we need to do something. On the other, you have to think that the remote working, we are remotely working. And so the people could experience this kind of stuff for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I think the company will not go back because it's convenient for the company. And so if you think that people, also young people that don't have a family, they could decide to work, instead to be in London in a 20 square meters flat, spend a lot of money, they can spend the money and work from a place that they like. Much more. And that is also an opportunity, no, for the industry. So this is a trend of work and vacation that will become real. I think it's good for a startup or something in that regard. This is something that we are thinking for our people. So again, this new trend, if you ask me, is something that we need to take in mind when we saw in 3-5 years.
Just one final thing before we do finish. And it's good that you mentioned your people, because I was going to talk about that, because you said earlier, you know, this, for some people, this was a very hard thing for them to deal with psychologically. You know, it's been so tough. They will have had some very difficult conversations with customers, and they're not used to having those conversations. This hasn't been pleasant. So I guess it's probably taught you, I guess, as an employer, about that kind of duty of care, people's mental health going through crises like this. And what has that taught you about how you operate as an employer of many thousands of people, often quite maybe young people, and especially when they're all remote and they're sort of trying to work out for themselves what's going on? It's been really eye-opening in that sense.
I continue to repeat, we are lucky, we were lucky, because we did the well-being survey last week, and we are on 76% of the people is, let's say, it means from a grade from 0 to 100, 76%, it means that the people feel good. But we did a lot of work in the past 3 years, and we have been very successful in the past 3 years. So the people still remember, for example, we have done to party, because 2019 for us has been extraordinary, and we have done a big party for our 1,200 employees all together from around the world in Ibiza for 3 days, and they still remember that. So we have a lot of capital, let's say, people capital in the company. And we exploit that in these 3 months, because the people continue to remember what has been good, what we have done very well in the last 3 years. But to be honest, we are spending that, and now we need to recreate. So for me, my work is to create probably a different culture in the company, taking in consideration this effect, but try to maintain this level of engagement and show to my people respect, and again, try to, let's say, I know that we are in a difficult situation, but we have done the best that we can. And this is what we can expect from ourselves. So we are lucky because right now we are in good shape, but if you ask me, the next 3 years will be challenging, because for example, if I hire you, that you are new in the company, you have no idea on what happening in the past, and you start to receive complaints from the customer, problem with cash and the financial. After a week, you become overwhelmed because you don't know me. And I talk with you, I'm your manager or I'm your colleague, but we talk by Zoom. And we are human. So that I think will be very, very difficult.
Yeah. Well, look, we wish you all the best with that. It's hugely challenging, but I guess for a businessman, also, a real challenge is always a good challenge.
It's very. Yeah. I have to be honest with you. This is the worst, let's say, period of my entrepreneurial career. But I feel very young, because for me it's like going back 20 years. So yeah. It's a mixed feeling.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much for today, Marco. It's been really lovely to speak to you, and we wish you all the best. We'll see you around at an event soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.